Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for being with us again this week. I have an amazing speaker, Janet Dirks. Welcome, Janet.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your program. It's such an honor. I'm a fan and it's wonderful to talk to you.
Oh, coming from you, I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I do to attract this woman?
Oh,
So this
no.
woman has been a journalist at CTV for 30 years. And I'm saying journalist, I mean, she had so many different titles throughout the years, but producer, bureau chief. I mean, she made her way up there, and now she is retired at a very young age. Don't get me wrong. I think it's just because she put in her years, not because she had reached the age of retirement. But really, Janet, are you retired?
Well, I just want to talk about the age thing first. I'm 60 years old. I chose to take early retirement just because I figured, life is short. I feel good. I want to have enough time to do some other things. And yeah, retired. Thought I would travel. COVID, that didn't happen. But as it turns out, I'm working now. I have a friend who has a marketing company called Create That Copy, and she asked if I'd be the media person for her. And I thought, yeah, that'd be great. I can learn something. So I'm still kind of working in that media role, but I'm no longer really an active journalist. Although I'll always feel a part of that journalism tribe for sure.
Yeah, well, I feel honored to have you here and thank you. And today we're going to talk about a subject that, we're both passionate about, and a subject that I feel has so many different angles to it, ageism. So, as women, well, I will talk about me. I'm not even going to generalize. I will be very honest here of saying I'm scared of aging, and I'm not looking forward to having white hair and all of that. And it's really a battle that I have with myself because a lot of time it's going to be seen as shallow if I actually am honest and say I will color my hair. I don't want to have my hair white. And I admire and respect the women who are able to let it grow naturally and be okay with it, but I'm not. And both are fine, but there's such a stigma around, beauty and ageism, and it's all about like if you put too much emphasis on beauty, it's shallow. If you don't put enough, well, you're not taking care of yourself. So what's your take on ageism? Because I know that you've ran a lot of panel through your years on aging, so you're almost an expert in that subject now.
And I live it right at 60. I walk among you. So I know what it's like. I agree with you about the people who want to color their hair should color their hair. People who don't. If you want to use filler or Botox, go ahead. If you don't, that's fine too. I don't think there should be a judgment or a stigma about that. I think every woman has to walk down the path of life their way. And I think you have to do what makes you feel good about yourself. I love creams and serums. I'm big into that. I've had Botox, you bet. I color my hair, sure. Does that mean I'm not happy or proud to be 60? Not at all. It just means for me, and that's just my approach, this is the best way for me to age and to be 60. Maybe there'll be a day when I'll decide I don't want to color my hair. I don't think at 80 I will be, but who knows, right? Never say never. But I think everyone has a right to age in their own manner. I don't think it's shallow. I think it's about self care. And I think we need to feel good about ourselves. And we live in Canada and it's really cold. And in Alberta, where I live, it's really dry. It just so terribly dry with that relentless wind. I am bathing in serums and creams every single day. And if someone finds that vain, I don't really care because that's one of the joys of aging, Caroline. You stop to care as much about what other people think about you. You think about what you think about you. You do things because you feel good about it. And you have to look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, metaphorically as well. You have to live within your own skin and feel good about yourself. So who cares if people don't like it? Doesn't bother me. If someone wants to judge me for coloring my hair, have at it. That's fine.
I admire you for being this honest because even, especially about Botox, I don't know why that word is such almost a swear word now. When we say Botox, it's like everyone is hiding it. I get some in my jaw, and it's actually therapeutic. And it's paid by the insurance, funny enough, because I clench my
Mm.
jaw too much, and I was breaking my teeth. So Botox also have therapeutic uses, and doctors also use it for different things. It's not just about anti-aging, but that word became a word of like, oh my goodness, it's a shame. Don't talk about it. And I like when someone is not, you know, doesn't care about saying it, because I think that, you made a big point here. As you age, you care less and less. Like, I'm 47 now, and if I think it when I was 20, oh my goodness, I was concerned about, like, everyone. What is everyone thinking? What is my neighbor thinking? What is this? Now it's like I'm really starting to not care because my priority changes, and it's really just the people I love and the people that matter to me, and the rest I also learned with years that we're not all so different. We all live the same insecurities and the same fears when we're alone. It's just that we don't talk about it, and the outside image is so important to keep. But when we start sharing amongst women, like, don't you feel like when you start sharing and saying stuff, people will be like, oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, me too.
Eventually, I do find that because so many celebrities would be in denial and they look fantastic, right? You think, wow, they're like frozen in time, like an insect in amber. And they say, I've had nothing done. And you think, okay, that's just not realistic. Gravity pulls things down. It's just a fact of life. So I don't buy those who say, oh no, or I had it once and I'll never do it again, or no, I don't like it. I don't like what it does to my face. And I'm looking at them on television or on the screen, I'm thinking, wow, their jawline's so tight. They don't have one line on their face. There's only so much that a filter can do. So they're doing something, and, more power to them. But who are we kidding? And I think if we say, yeah, I've had Botox. I do get Botox. I started getting it at 40, Caroline. I was actually at CTV Vancouver, and I was going to go on, I think CNN, they wanted me to do a hit about something. And I was talking to a male reporter who was a bit younger than I was. And I said, oh, I hate these lines. And he said, honey, get some Botox. I can't believe you haven't. Everyone in this room is getting it. I get it. I thought, oh, okay. So then I began to explore it, because had I not, I'd have these big furrow. But that was kind of liberating. I will say I felt I earned the right to have it at the age of 40. I'm not crazy about it when I hear 25-year-olds getting it as preventative Botox, because I think you need to grow into your face. And I think you need to see how you're going to turn out. I think the 30s is a beautiful time. I think the 40s is a beautiful time. If I weren't on television, would I have had that done? Probably not, but who knows? But I waited till I was 40, and I feel I earned the right to have that Botox put into my forehead without a problem. And now I have it on a little bit on my crow's feet, depending how bad they get. But so what? We can do
You
what
look
we want.
fabulous, and I'm sure
Uh,
that Botox or not, you would look fabulous. But a big thing is about looking fabulous is also what you exude and your self-confidence. And for me, the reason I don't judge anyone doing anything to their face or their body, for that matter of fact, there's some things that I don't understand. Honestly, I'm like, why? But I don't judge, because I also know it can give you such a boost of confidence, and you don't know what the person is going through. And before a surgery or whatever, it's a big procedure for everyone. So to make that decision, there's usually a big reason inside of them, and we cannot judge that because we're not these people. But and I didn't want to get too much into plastic enhancements here. I can say that I have really, really good creams if any of you want.
I know, I use it. I use your
Exactly. Like,
creams.
for me, I started using those creams, I was 39, and now at 47, my skin is younger. So there are also amazing products, but I get judged also for putting that money in my face in products. People will be like, really? You spend that much? And I'm like, This is my biggest piece of real estate, my body and my face. It's the only thing that will follow me my whole life. So I will take care of it as much as I can for as long as I can. You know, I wouldn't pick creams over groceries, or maybe I would. I'm not sure. I'm not in that situation, so I won't decide. But
You don't have to choose, Caroline. You can do both.
exactly, my kids are eating, so it's good. What I want to come back on though is like your career in television. For me, it's like it was almost not almost, it was a dream to be an actress. And when I was younger, I was asked to do some modeling. And for me, it's a world that I exited very fast because I was way too self conscious. And it's a place where it's almost like people have the right to comment on your physical appearance. How did you go through that? Because you were 30 years in it. And
I
especially you started at a time that, women were not predominant in TV.
I started in radio at CBC radio. So how I looked didn't really matter, although I've always loved clothes and I've always, loved fashion and style, and then kind of got into television. And then I started television when I was in my 30s. So, which is kind of late. In fairness, because I know there are a lot of people, especially anchors, they get comments all the time about their hair, about their makeup, about their outfits. The viewers were pretty nice. I think I got one negative comment and it really hurt me. And then I thought, eh. And it was like, you look really old. And I think I was 45 and I was devastated. And now I think, eh. But mostly people were really nice. And I think that's because I come across as very earnest, and they think, oh, she's on our side. She's telling the story as best as she can. She's in the middle of a snowstorm reporting. So people were pretty nice. And I would get a lot of people emailing me saying, I like your jacket. Where did you buy it? Or I like your lipstick. What is it? And I would happily tell them what it was. So people were, in fairness, kind. I will say, however, though, I'd love to see the day when a woman in her 50s is made an anchor, suddenly, of a major television show. I'd love to see the day when a woman in her 60s is. I see men on television in news who are balding, overweight, paunchy, not worried about how they look, and that's fine. And even though it's not really discussed, you're not going to see many women looking that way. There is that kind of unspoken thing that you'd better look good. Your hair had better be nice. You'd better not be overweight, even though no one says that. And there are some women who are larger. Thank God we're seeing more representation of what our society looks like. But, I have a friend who is a former journalist, and she told me just yesterday that when she was in journalism school at 19 years of age, her professor said to her, if you really want to be taken seriously in journalism, or if you want a career, you should lose a few pounds. She was not a heavy girl. She was not even chubby. She was medium. She was fit. She was healthy, and she was devastated. She's very successful. She now, that's fine. But she said, that always kind of stayed with her. And you think 19, when you're so vulnerable and you're so impressionable, to have your professor, someone who you admire, tell you that would be crushing and soul shattering. Now, that professor, I think, would be fired, and rightfully so. But I'm grateful I didn't have someone telling me that, because it would have given me more hangups than I already have.
Yeah,
That's
well,
really cruel.
when I did try the modeling years, I was about 16 to 18, 19, and I was 30 pounds lighter than now, and I was told I needed to lose weight. Because back then too, it was like, it was in to just be basically a stick, like have nothing coming out of anywhere. But yes, that's what I'm saying, that there in certain industries they have a right of commenting your physique, which technically they don't and they shouldn't. But it's almost like, yes, actresses will get those kind of comments, singers. I've heard people commenting on singers that were bigger, being like, yeah, but she should lose weight. Who cares? Did you hear her voice? Like, did you hear how she sings? And like, I'm taking Adele for an example. Like, when she started, she was heavier than now, and I admired her for standing up and being so gorgeous. And, but a lot of people did comment. to the point that she did lose all the weight. So you always, it does affect the person as a human being. You know, it's, those people are not made of stone. They're like, they hear the comments, and you know, I assume it's not an easy task. And what I love actually is that I just got on TikTok 2 days ago. So yes, I'm starting to be in, and it's probably
Yay.
as of my kids are exiting TikTok because they're like, now there's mothers on TikTok and dads.
It's like Facebook.
Yeah, it's not exactly, but now it's not as cool for them. But there was this young girl who was, I don't even want to say overweight. She was a bit more chubby than the average. And there was a video of her, and she's literally there in a bikini, and she's showing that she has curves, and she's sitting, and she has a little gut. And she's explaining it in a way of like, that's totally fine. And I love that this new generation is really, you know, breaking the stigma around it. Like my daughters, they're 14 and 21. They work out at the gym to gain weight. And even me, when I hear that, I'm like, whoa, it's pretty cool, but it's so far from what I was at that age. But now it's more, you know, it's very into be strong, not skinny or thin, strong. And that, I absolutely love that we're going towards that. But
And you know, that's a credit to you also as a mother, that you gave them enough self-confidence so that their main concern is being fit and not being skinny. So bravo to you, Caroline. That's good parenting.
thank you. Well, I have to say there's one thing that I can say I succeeded in. It's my little one, because it was my third one. I was a bit older. Since she's born, I always tell her, I want you to love yourself the most. You're the person that you have to love the most. So when we did our affirmations, or when I told her I loved her, I was always like, and you need to tell yourself you love you. You, you love yourself. And I remember when she was about 6 or 7, at some point, I'm like, so who do you love the most in the world? Like we were playing around. And she's like, well, right after me, it's you. And I was
Wow.
just like, I succeeded in that, because for me, the way I was raised is like, if you loved yourself too much, it was conceited, it was pretentious. But that's why we're in therapy now. No, it's like we're all in therapies to try to learn how to love ourselves more. So talking about that, how, what's your tricks to really boost your self-confidence and love yourself?
You know, you say love yourself, and that's, I guess that's the goal. I accept myself. Love, I accept myself the way I am. Um, and I'm happy with who I am and how I feel. So tips and tricks. Okay, in just to give you some background or something to think about, I was doing some research on this as we were going to talk about aging, and I'm 60. And then I looked up the actress who played Granny on the Hillbillies, or so the Beverly Hillbillies. Irene Ryan was 60 when she played Granny.
Wow.
Wow. If you ever watched The Waltons, yes, I'm dating myself. It was a big hit in the 70s. The woman who played Grandma Walton, Ellen Corby, was 61 when she played Grandma. So I think our idea of aging is different and how we look is different. And I'm proud of how I look. I'll tell you a couple of things that I really feel strongly about that help with the aging process. And I'll tell you, it's a privilege to get older. I've lost friends who died at an earlier age, and what they would have done to been having this conversation about being older and aging. It is a privilege. Just be lucky, because you know what the alternative is. I would say keep young people in your life, talk to young people, because it really helps, and it's nice to know what they're talking about. At the same time, I have older friends. I have friends in their 80s. I talk to them quite often too. So have friends from different generations just to kind of keep you grounded. I'd also say be up on your computer skills. I'm guilty of that. Before I started this marketing job in media, I was thinking, I don't know how to do any of this stuff, all these systems, and I was having anxiety about it because I don't have children. I don't have a teenager. I can say, how do I do this? How do I do that? So as I lay in bed, haunted, thinking I'll never get through this, I decided to hire a tutor. 25-year-old guy came over,
Good for
took
you.
me through the paces. I had him for about 2 or 3 weeks, and that was a great thing to do. So if you don't understand things, although my natural inclination is to say, I'll never get it and run away, don't. Force yourself to learn. Learning is good. Learning anything is good. Learn a new language, learn something. But that was a really good thing to do, was to force myself to learn some computer skills, and it's helped enormously. You know, there are 5 million women in Canada who are over the age of 50. So there are lots of us out there, and I think we need to take solace in that, and we need to talk to each other about these issues. I don't know if you follow Paulina Poroskova on Instagram. She
Yes.
was a supermodel in the 80s, so my generation, very beautiful. And she posted a few months ago photos of herself in a bikini or lingerie. Amazing body, killer body. If I looked like that, I'd be in a bikini every single day. She does not color her hair. She does not do anything with her face. Fine. And she's very honest about that. And the comments she got from the trolls, the nasty comments like, how dare you? You're not hot. You don't look good. It was really quite shocking. And she was very unapologetic about that. And since then has become a real champion for anti-ageism and for women aging the way they want. And I think it's fantastic. And she's, so if anyone is following her, I know you'll know how great she is, but she's really fun to read and watch as she goes through her journey of life, where she chooses not to do stuff, but she's gorgeous the way she is.
And see, you just said something here that blew my mind. And it's because I realize it's so true and so sad at the same time. Is that when you get to a certain age, you start getting criticized on like, how dare you? As if there's just like a window in your life that you're allowed to be sexy or, do those kind of photo shoots or whatever. I know that my kids, they're not bothered to tell me what they think of me. And sometimes like I'll want to borrow a pair of jeans from my daughter and she's like, Mom, mm-mm, no, don't put that. And I'm like, why? She's like, it's for 20 years old. And I'm like, okay, I still have this fear of being this old lady trying to dress like a younger one. But quite honestly, when I do that, it's just, I don't even think about that. Maybe I thought like that when I was younger, but now I don't think about that. I just see the jeans and I'm like, gorgeous. I want to wear them today, or they make me feel good because I try them and they fit. But it's really questioning yourself, like, do I still have the age of doing that? Like, just last week, I got a new tattoo. Like, that was the big thing, but I wanted that tattoo, and I had been telling the story in my head for the last year. Come on, I'm 47. It's enough with that. Enough with the rebel thing, and just move on and stop putting ink on your body. And to the point that I had girlfriends say, you're really acting against what you're preaching right now. And I'm like, yeah, it's way easier to preach it than to actually like do it, because it feels like preaching. You will tell everyone like, do it, be happy. You don't need to act your age. And then when it comes to ourselves, anyway, for me, it's still like there's this barrier of like, yeah, but I will be judged and blah blah. So anyway, I went and got the tattoo, and I was just like, whatever, I have it, and it's for me. It's not for anyone or to show it off. But it did feel weird to get it. It was actually a 24-year-old that did it. And I'm like, you're my son's age. And she was like, oh, that's cool. I wish my mom would get a tattoo. And then it made me feel like I was this old lady trying to be cool. But anyway, long story short is, it's sad to see how stigmatized some actions are about you should stop at a certain age. And I really feel like we shouldn't. And I admire the public faces like you and a lot of different celebrities that will fight against ageism, because we need that. Like, we need to feel sexy and beautiful and free at whatever age, right?
Right. And if that felt good for you, getting a tattoo, awesome. And it's not about age. You can get a tattoo at 20, at 40, at 60. Do what makes you feel good. I kind of hate that term of dressing age appropriate because it's different for everybody. I think people have to dress in a way that gives them joy and makes them happy. I probably wouldn't wear certain things that I wore at 25. I leave it for the 25-year-olds. But I do like fashion. And that's how it is. I wish there were better fashions, somewhere between like 25 and 90. There has to be a middle ground. There doesn't seem to be a lot of that. I'm not going to wear dresses with a gazillion slits on the side. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to wear a dress that's grazing my butt cheeks. Not going to happen. I would not have done that at 25 either. So I wish there were better designs for women who don't want to wear like seniors separates at my age, but maybe that's something to look into. But I'm glad you got that tattoo because it probably made you feel great about yourself. And what is it of? What's your tattoo?
It's a unilome lotus. So it's
Hmm.
I'll let you guys Google it. But
Okay.
it has the significance of, it's your path of life, which is very, it can be rocky, it's a roller coaster, but all of that slowly you're going towards enlightenment and wisdom. And there's one thing that I've learned to embrace as I'm getting older is that yes, I don't look like I was looking when I was 20. My eyelids are falling a bit. Like all of these things that I can, complain about. But the wisdom and the self confidence and the self love is all on the rise. And I'm like, wow, at 60 or at 70, I will really not care anymore about one's soul, what they're thinking. And I think this is so powerful. And I wish I could pass that on to my daughters. And actually, well, right now they're pretty much like that. They really don't care about what the world thinks. I think that there's an age that you really don't care and then you care and then you don't care again. So, but it's so empowering to not wait for your neighbor's reaction to see how you feel. And for me, that's something I battled my whole life. Like, what will people think? And it's it's disempowering, basically.
Eh, Right. And you know what people will think? Do you think they're actually going to be there when you draw your last breath from this world? No, but you'll be there. So you have to do what feels good for you and what you think is right. There's
Mm-hmm.
some advice I would like to give, though, to women, and I'm guilty of this myself. So it's a good reminder. I will look at pictures of myself, let's say 10 years ago, and go, wow, I looked so great. And yet at the time, I'll have been thinking, I don't look good. My hair's not good. I'm too chunky. I need to lose some weight. I'm looking old. I'm not enjoying the stage I am when I'm at that stage. It only takes, 10 years that I'm looking at those pictures going, yeah, I was good. So I want every woman to stop wasting time and agonizing about the extra 5 pounds or whatever, a line. Enjoy it because when you're 80, or 70 or however long you live, you're going to look back at those pictures and go, by golly, I was hot. So enjoy that hotness now because you've earned it. So don't be so self-critical is what I would advise younger women. And if I were to talk to a younger self, myself, I would say that. Stop being so self-critical. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Enjoy them all. They're all special and they're all beautiful, but it's easier said than done, right? I mean,
You're so right on that. And I remember taking pictures with my kids when they were like 1 and 2. So I was in my 20s. And, back then we used to have to print the pictures. And I was just like ripping them off, like not keeping this one, not keeping this one. And I kept the odd ones. Um, and I'm thinking now, like all those moments that I didn't keep, which was absolutely stupid because I, that's exactly what I think. I'm like, I was hot. Like I looked younger, but of course you looked younger because you're older now. But while I was in that moment, I didn't. And now the way I'm, conciliating with all of this is that when someone takes a picture of me or if I have a picture taken of me, I don't look at them. I'm like, I'll look at them in 10 years. And then, because I'm like, in 10 years, I know I will think I looked good on this one. So I don't look at them anymore because otherwise I was so critical always. But the thing is also, I think we live in a time now that social media and magazines and pictures and celebrities, it's all so out there, and we forget that all of these things are filtered, touched up, this, that, and we think we need to look like this when we get up in the morning. But really, they don't even look like that when they get up in the morning. There's
No.
so, but we think that's what is right.
And yet, there was a lot of discussion when Sex and the City did that reboot. Uh, a few months ago, and people were very critical about how the women looked. It was as though it was, how dare they age? To see women in their 50s who admitted they were in their 50s, and they all look good. I mean, they look really good. But people were so nasty, and it was as though they wanted them to stay the way they were in their 30s. Well, that's not going to happen. I didn't love everything about that new series, but I loved seeing women in their 50s acting like women in their 50s, and not pretending otherwise. They were unapologetic. And I think that's worth celebrating. And I'm actually glad they're doing another, I think, season 2 of that. Why not? We got to see more of that. And then it'll be more normal, right? To see women in their 50s versus seeing only women in their 20s and 30s on the screen. Something I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've been to movies where I've been sitting beside a man, not my partner, full disclosure, but maybe a brother-in-law, and we'll be watching a movie and an actress will appear and I'll hear something like, she looks so old. She looks so old. And I find that very offensive. And now I just say, we all look old. We're all getting old, which usually shuts people up. But it's like they don't say that when a man comes on the screen, he looks old. No, it's only women, as though how dare we look older? Well, we do, okay? We're
No,
getting
even
older
it's like
because we're lucky.
when we saw Richard Gere, aging, and George Clooney, were like, oh, look at this white hair. Like, oh, he looks good. And yes, and I heard those comments too. And most of the time they come from men who are bald and, with a big belly. And I'm not judging here, but it's just like, dude, did you see yourself? Like, how dare you criticize someone else? And even if you were the
True.
most gorgeous person, for me, when I hear those kind of comments, it really takes away like instantly from the beauty of the person. And but you know what? I'm listening to you, and I'm guilty of having those thoughts too. And I'm wondering, how I'm really into like, yes, let's age whatever the way we want, but I have to admit, like, and I'm sorry, Jennifer Aniston, if you're listening to me, and if you are, thank you so much. But when I saw the reunion of Friends, I was just like, oh, Jen aged, but of course she aged. It's 20 years ago. But there's this little make believe beautiful world in our mind that we want them to stay there, and we forget that they age too. And honestly, Jennifer Aniston is like so gorgeous for her age, and that's so wrong what I just said there, because I said what I hate hearing for her age. We should remove that from any compliment. She's so gorgeous, period. But it's just the make believe, I feel, is broken in between the two, and it must be the same thing. I didn't see the Sex and the City, but must be the same thing with Sarah Jessica Parker. Like, we wanted to see her as a younger one, but to do those mean comments is just like unrealistic. But I guess we don't associate that with reality. I don't know.
And and we're all guilty of it, right? But at least we're talking about it and we're aware of it.
Mm-mm.
And that's going to help, right? That's going to help because we're all getting older if we're lucky. And
Exactly.
it's nice to see women getting older who are getting some screen time, because there was once a time when they would be forgotten. I don't know if you remember that movie, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, with
Mm-hmm.
Betty Davis. She
Mm-hmm.
was only in her 50s when she did that. Um, but they made her look much older. What was my point in bringing that up? It's just that people in their 50s look different than they did a few years ago. Our idea of people in their 50s has changed. And I think as we go forward, I'm hoping we're going to be kinder and more accepting of each other. Like you said, the new generation is showing such, I don't know, such a more healthy way of looking at themselves, being fit rather than skinny. So I can only hope that it will get better. And I think it's our duty. You're much younger than I am, but it's my duty to be encouraging to younger women and to say there's nothing to be afraid of. And you're great the way you are. We just love you the way you are. So
Hmm.
stop beating yourself up. If you
And
stop beating yourself up, I'll promise I'll stop beating myself up.
and really appreciating beauty at any age. And I do believe that, my daughters, that generation will break a lot of all of that, because I think that they're raised in a generation where, geez, like you can't even assume the gender of someone anymore. So they're really raised into a generation where don't put any kind of judgment. And I really hope like that it's going to stay like that, and it's going to carry on in their adult life and then motherhood and all of that. But really the beauty is at every age. It's just like, and I feel like real beauty for me, and you know what, sometimes I'll look at a woman who's like twice my size, and I'll be jealous because she's so comfortable in her skin that she'll be on the cover of a magazine in a bikini. And I know that some people are judging her for being there, thinking like, why are you on that? For me, I'm like, good for you. Like, how did you get to the point of feeling so comfortable in your skin that you're able to do that? And for me now, that's the goal. It's not anymore just to look a certain way, is to be able to feel okay. Just to really to let all of the comments go over and above my head. Because even now, if I want to think they're all going over and above, no, there's some that really stick as well. We're all human. So, but give us a trick as well, because you went through, you grew up in the public eye, basically, your adulthood. How did you make sure to always stay true to yourself and not become what people wanted to see from you? Or do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not sure how to ask my question 100%, but stay true to yourself without giving up into this public peer pressure.
Well, uh, I'm from Winnipeg, a city that I would say where you have to be down to earth and where pretentiousness is really discouraged. I also had great parents. My mother would always call me on things. I did once something to my lips, and I remember going on the air and something had gone wrong and I couldn't really smile. So the next day, it was not good. The next day, the phone rings. I answer the phone. I'm in Calgary. My mother's in Victoria. And all I hear, her first words are, "What have you done to your mouth?" And I cried and said, "I know it's awful." So I always had someone who would call me on stuff. And when you're held to your feet to the fire and you're grilled and you're instilled, you have to be a person of character. You have to be a person of integrity. Stop thinking about how you look. If you have that kind of drummed into you, it helps a lot. So I had very good parents who were walking the walk. They were wonderful examples that the most important thing is to be a person of integrity first, is to be the person who stands up for other people, is to care about other people. Those are really good role models, and they're big shoes to fill, but I'm grateful for that. So I think that helped a lot. And I also think it helps that I have a big sister who I can turn to, who'll also call me out on things. That helps too. I think it's surround yourself with people who love you, but are honest enough to tell you when you're acting out of line, and to remind you what's really important. That would be my advice.
Stay
I mean,
close to
but
you.
you know what? I was lucky, right? I was lucky that I was born into that family. I was lucky that I have this sister. Maybe you find a friend who will be honest enough with you to say, smarten up. And not everyone is that concerned about you, and you're not the center of the universe, and not everyone is that concerned about you or how you look. Okay, so reality check. And I know that.
My big sister told me that one day. I was just like, it was back in the days, and she told me something like, "You really think you're that important that people are actually talking about you?" And I was just like, ouch.
But it's good advice. She's absolutely right.
Yes.
We're not that important. People aren't going, gee, I wonder what Caroline and Janet are wearing today. And it may not be, they're not thinking that at all. They're thinking their own stuff. They're thinking, I got to get this at the grocery store and do that and do this. So yeah, that's what they're thinking.
Yes.
Uh,
They,
it's probably different for Hollywood celebrities, I guess. And I know that some of the stuff that's put out there is cruel, so that must hurt. But I think you have to rise above it. And I think I know, I think it was Michelle Obama who said she just doesn't read social media,
mm,
which is smart. I think when you're at that stage, don't read social media. Who I'm so impressed with are the female politicians. I think you've got to have, I mean, to be a politician at all, you've got to have tough skin. But I think for being a female politician, where everyone seems to have the sharp knives out, I think you've got to have the skin of a rhinoceros. I give them a lot of credit. I could never do it.
yeah, and
I think
there's
my feelings would be hurt all the time.
I absolutely love Michelle Obama. And just to, I'm going to make a disclaimer here. I don't follow politics, and I'm actually not a political girl. I don't have a party. I don't, whatever. But I do follow people. And I love Michelle Obama because she has such a great heart and she's so authentic. And the other one that I love and that my 14-year-old is using as a role model is AOC. I'm like, this girl, Alexandra, um, she is fighting a fight that she's believing in. And honestly, I don't even know exactly what's her fight. I just love seeing her showing up for what she believes in over and over and over again. And she called out men who talked to her improperly. And so for me, when I see that, I see the new generation. I'm like, it's so uplifting because we always have deserved the same respect, space, and everything, but never really got it. And I really feel that, you know, in the recent years, women are rising stronger and stronger and stronger. And we're going towards, something that will be better. I'm not saying we're going towards a world that will be run by women. Of course, in my mind, I'd like to see that, but I'm sure there would be a whole other set of, issues. Um, because traditionally, women, I'm saying traditionally, I don't, not sure it's the right term, but I'm trying to say when I grew up, women were catfights. It was a lot of jealousy, envying, and it was rare to see women pushing each other up. We would pull each other down. So, what do you have to say about that? Because this is really a trend that is changing and changing because of women like you who trailed the blaze before.
I hope it's changing. I think to deny that there was any cattiness or women being mean to other women is wrong, because we all went to high school and we know how mean girls can be. Madeleine Albright, the United States first woman Secretary of State, she recently died. I actually have a book of her. I'm using it as to put my papers on. She was wonderful, and she said, anyone who thinks, I'm paraphrasing her, the world would be a better place if women ran it, they're clearly forgetting high school. So that is true. And I think if we just say, if women were, women are so perfect and women are so supportive, the woman who's been picked on by other girls in high school feels ashamed, like she did something wrong. I think we've all felt the sting of that. When I was starting out in my career, it was like the first week at CBC Radio in Winnipeg, and my job was an associate producer, and I was to book guests for the morning show. And I came at that job very grateful to have it, but I had a journalism degree. I had a law degree. I'd been called to the bar. So I was a lawyer, and I had an undergrad degree in history. So, I was an educated person, and I was a humble person, I think. And I was so eager to please, because that's also part of the thing, right? We as females are so eager to please. And I handed over a script, because you have to write the script for the hosts, right? With all the questions for them to ask. She looked at me, and she must have been in her 40s or 50s, and she said, "Oh, look at me, I'm Sandra D." And with those few words, dismissed me as some sort of cupcake that had no credibility. And I was so hurt and crushed, because I thought, I'm not making my way by being cute or wearing a short skirt or doing anything, or why would you be so mean? And it was really mean. And so I think I vowed I'm never going to do that to a younger woman. I'm always going to embrace younger females and young reporters and try to mentor them and encourage them and not make them feel so small. That's really wrong. Madeleine Albright, if I may paraphrase her again, said there's a special place in hell for women who aren't kind to other women. And I really believe that. So I think as we go through our life, we have to be supportive and kind to other women and forget the cattiness stuff, forget the stuff. Maybe that's false. Maybe it's a male thing that was created to keep women apart from each other. We got to forget it. And we've got to be good to each other. And we've got to lift young women up and show them their potential and show them we're not jealous of you. We're thrilled with you. If you're smarter than I am, I'm delighted. If you're more talented, fantastic, great. What can I do to help you? And that's the legacy I want to have. And I hope I did have that when I was working as a reporter, because I really tried. Because I do love younger women, and I'm so filled with admiration for them and how hard they work and how tougher it is now, because there are more demands in journalism for sure. And with social media all there, watching their every move, it's not easy. So the least I can do is be supportive. And I encourage other women to do the same in whatever field they are. Be supportive of other women and be particularly supportive of younger women, because they could be your daughters, your nieces, your friends.
Also, because that one word you say to them can stay forever. And
Oh, yes.
one
Like
thing,
in my case, look at me, I'm Sandra Dee, who was, that was even too old a reference for me. She was like a star in the 50s, 60s. But I guess to this woman, that was basically, that was her idea of a cupcake, of someone not to be taken seriously, of someone to be just dismissed.
yeah,
And I think that is wrong. You do
that
not
was my,
dismiss other people. You certainly don't dismiss other women and younger women.
I agree 100%. And I think that you're such a humble person. And that's probably what I feel is the most attractive from you. And you're referring to the movie Grease, which was my movie of all time. I watched it probably 400 times, knew all of everything. And then, you know, last year or 2 years ago, it was on TV, and I'm like to my youngest one, I'm like, "Oh, come sit, let's watch this together." And oh my goodness, I was watching it with the eyes of an adult and a mother, and I was just like, "My mom let me watch that." About
Yeah.
drugs, sex in high school, getting pregnant, drugs, peer pressure, Anyway, but it was those days. But I get like Sandra D was the cute one in that. And I think that, you did touch a point there as well. I feel another thing that is really, really changing, and but that needs like way more change as well, is it's almost like we used to dissociate beauty and intelligence. Like when a woman was super beautiful, she was beautiful. The less beautiful were more intelligent. So to see someone who was beautiful and intelligent, it was like exceptions. It was just like, oh my gosh, you have the looks and the brain. I feel like for decades it was like that. We had one or the other place, but not both. And now we can see like AOC is the greatest example. I think she is gorgeous and she's fierce and she has the super intelligent and all of this, but it's not one or the other. I know that, I worked in a male predominant business when I was younger, and I would be extremely careful. I would wear turtlenecks, pants. I was careful to not be sexy to be considered for my brain. And it was always something in my mind that I had to dissociate, because a big prejudice was that, they don't go together. So that's another one that we need to break, and we will break it. Um, Janet, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you. And I feel like I could talk 4 hours with you, like a podcast of 4 hours. But I will bring you back on, because there's so many different subjects you could influence and help, younger women. And I say younger women, but also women my age and your age, and every single age, because you have wisdom and you are living your wisdom, and you're embracing it, and you're very humble. So thank you. What last words would you leave people with? and I would say
Okay.
women.
A big topic we didn't get into was menopause. And
Oh,
that's something
yes.
that a lot of women don't want to go there because they're afraid of it. But I'm telling you, they're women. I mean, the average age is 51. People go through years of perimenopause in their 40s, sometimes as young as 30s. So that's a topic we should talk about because that's nothing to be afraid of, but it's one of those subjects where there's not a lot of help out there. A lot of doctors don't know a lot about it. So you really have to be your own health advocate. So maybe that could be something in the future.
No, but
But
you know what? Sorry,
that's a
let's take
huge
5 minutes.
thing because it's affecting, you know, half the female population once they get to a certain age.
Yeah, but let's take 5 minutes and talk about it now because,
Okay.
yes, my doctor actually told me yesterday. She's like, "You're 47, yeah, 51, you'll be in your menopause." And it was almost my death sentence, like 51, you're done. So
Right.
why did I
That
take it as that?
No, you're absolutely right. There is a stigma and a shame to menopause. And I think what people are afraid of is that once you are no longer able to be fertile, once you can no longer have a baby or reproduce, you're no longer sexually attractive and you're no longer valued in society. That's got to go. So we've got to stop thinking that way. Of course, we're valued in society, and it's hitting so much of us that we have to be honest about it. There's nothing to be ashamed of, but I see a lot of shame and stigma. When I was going through perimenopause and I would be asking friends about it, so many of them denied it to me. No, having no problem, no hot flashes, no weight gain, no dry skin, nothing. And I thought, wow, is it just me? And fortunately, I have that big sister who I could turn to and say, what's going on? And she would tell me what she went through. And that kind of helped me realize what my path would be like, because my family doctor, as much as she's wonderful, she's about 35 and she really didn't know much. So I had to do my own research. And I mean good research with good studies and find out what worked for me. Because while I think there are like 35, 34 symptoms of menopause, there are ways to make yourself feel better, whether that's hormone replacement therapy, whether that's something else, whatever it is, at least be aware of it and then it won't be so bad. And then you'll get to the other side when you're no longer in that awful perimenopausal phase, which can last for years. And then I think you're out of menopause when you don't have a period for a year, but you're still valued, you're still important, you're still beautiful. So I think we have to address the stigma and the shame and attack it head on, because you know, someone like J-Lo is probably in perimenopause, if not in menopause. She's in her 50s. Think about that. I mean, there's an expression, right? We walk among you. Yeah, there are a lot of people in menopause all around us. So let's not be silly about it. Let's just be grown up and help each other and educate ourselves, because we really need to.
Well, and you know what? I had a very close friend who's 50, we're 10 years apart, so she's 57 now. And I've watched her going through it, and I was asking her, like, are you in it? Are you done? And she is an extremely healthy person. She has a healthy diet. She's always been taking supplements, and she's very careful with anything she puts in her body. She's careful with sugar, gluten, like all of the boring stuff that we say. But I mean, I've never really saw her having one symptom, and it was actually true. In her case, like, she wasn't lying. But that's because she always took care of her health, and watching her go through it really gave me hope, because I was just like, well, I do have some say into how I will go through it. Because honestly, like for me, when you talk menopause, you see this old Grinch that is done with like roller on her head, doesn't want anything. She's like sweating always. She stinks. And that's, for me, that's menopause. And I'm like, oh.
That's the stereotype, though, Caroline. That's the stereotype. That's not the truth. And I also have to say, even the people who take care of themselves the most, they still might be having hot flashes, dry skin, headaches, insomnia. You can do everything right, and it's still going to hit you because, and it's not your fault, your hormones are completely changing. Suddenly that estrogen level has dropped. Suddenly your progesterone level has dropped. It's going to have an effect. I can assure you it will. I am kind of amused that when I think about if men were going through menopause, there'd be a lot of menopause centers and clinics across this country. There are not. So you're wondering if you're going it alone, but I think the more of us who talk about it, the better it's going to be. Maybe the more pressure we put on the medical community to learn a little more and support us a little more, it will get better. But really, that's just a stereotype. People going through menopause are still beautiful and valuable and interesting. And again, I harken back to J-Lo. Think about it. I bet she's in menopause.
I love that you mentioned J-Lo because she, like, when I see her, she's one of the sexiest women out there. And not only for a 50-year-old watching her, 30-year-old men will watch J-Lo and be like, oh my gosh, she's hot. Well, she's in her menopause because I think she is 51 now. But regardless, it can be sexy. It's all about how you deal with it as well. And it's not the end of our life and it's not a death sentence.
No,
Look at Janet. She went through it. She survived it. She's thriving. I've had like a few really bad examples in my life, but I also had great ones. And these are the ones that I'm choosing to focus on. And I think that JLo and Jennifer Aniston and all of this era is the best example that we can look at. They're all
right.
in it. Yay. And they're all sexy and beautiful.
They
So
are.
yeah,
They are sexy. They are sexy and beautiful. Can I just tell you one joke? I went to see Joan Rivers near the end of her career. She was performing in Vancouver, and she had this joke, and I was much younger then, so I didn't really get it. I get it now. And she said, and she must have been in her 70s, that she always liked to have a tampon accidentally drop out of her purse when she was near a group of men, and they would go, "Oh." I didn't really understand it. Now I kind of get it, and it's funny. But I guess she was saying, "Yeah, I'm still viable." We don't have to do that, but it would be funny to try it. Um, Things are changing and things are getting better. And I think we're learning more and we're learning to accept each other more. And I hope people feel not discouraged about it. I
me
hope they feel hopeful,
yes.
not the end of the world.
No, and there's a lot of beauty that comes with that as well. Janet, thank you so much. I love you. You're amazing. You're an amazing example. And you know what? Thank you for sharing that. It's so good to have someone sharing from the heart and the real things, and not just pretending that everything is candies and fun. So thank you. I appreciate you. And everyone listening, thank you so much for being here again this week. And we'll see you next week. And I will put Janet's information if you want to reach her and ask her some questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Carolyn. It's always lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.